Every time Cherry and I go on vacation or weekend getaway, we go to a location that we end up falling in love with, and we'll talk to ourselves like, should we live here? Should we retire here? Should this be in our future? And honestly, most places we come to the conclusion rather quickly, we should probably just visit and avoid for the rest of the year. When you're moving to a new area, for example, like Olympia, should this be a place that you either embrace or perhaps you should avoid? We're going to dive into that today.
We want you to understand what it's really like to live here. And more than that, we want you to understand if you're the type of person that could thrive here in Olympia. So today we're going to go through several different types of people who really fit in well in Olympia.
We're Joe and Charity. We're local realtors, and we help people every week just like you make an informed decision about moving to the Pacific Northwest.
So before you start finding that perfect home online, let's find out if Olympia is your perfect place.
First type of person that would fit in this area is the artistic type. Now, let me add some qualifiers to that. That does not mean that you're Picasso or you're Van Gogh. It just means that you embrace creative style of living and really the creator side of it. So it's not necessarily that this place is full of art galleries, although there are some great ones. It's really full of the artist type community. That's what we mean by artistic. Let's give you some details about that.
So our downtown area has been designated the Creative District. It's a 30-block radius of over 150 creative enterprises, including theater and art galleries and food and industrial creativity. So many things in this 30-block radius. There's 42 historic buildings, 38 food businesses, 25 makers and fabricators, and 10 performing arts and event spaces. So that is quite a lot of creativity happening in the downtown.
A lot of creativity. It brings up a lot of personal insecurities. I must be honest.
Joe is not the artistic type.
I appreciate artists and literally walk away from most galleries thinking, people are so talented. What happened to me? I feel like I was left off of whatever bus that was.
So we're just going to go enjoy it, just like probably a lot of you are. Now, if you are a maker, you are going to absolutely love living here. We go on art walks every time they happen. We have some fantastic studio tours, which is so fun because not are you just walking around and seeing art at the different galleries, you are going into the studios of these artists, and we've met some fantastic artists.
Yeah, it's really fun because in those art walks, you get to go around, take a look at what they've created, and also get a great conversation with the artists themselves and hear their story and how they got to the place in which they did and the reason and the motivation of the art that they're creating. So I think it's just kind of a fun way to really wrap your arms around the community and also find some great local artists that perhaps you'd want to support.
Yeah, we were very surprised the last time we went to one to find out that there are artists in our area who have created art for the Queen of England and create art all over the world and are quite renowned. So it's a fantastic place if you want to be a maker. And a lot of those artists have actually moved to our area specifically because of the creativity and the affordability of being an artist in this city.
And that artistic flair actually overflows onto outside of the buildings of the downtown. There are over 70 murals in the downtown area that really highlight the creativity of which this community has.
On top of all of that, the city of Olympia has designated the old Armory building as a creative space, and they are currently in renovations, making that a place where all artists can thrive. That location has been being used for years to prepare for the Procession of the Species, which is the highlight of the creativity here in our area. Procession of the Species is a celebration of both art and the earth, and people create elaborate costumes for 6 weeks, and they do this in community, they do it together, and then everybody comes together and has a parade and is showing everything off. There's over 30,000 people that participate in this in both viewing and doing the art itself. So as you can see, creativity is huge here in Olympia.
Now, the second group of people that thrive in Olympia, it really does go hand in hand with the arts community, is that who have an eclectic mindset. And what I mean by that is if you long for uniformity, if you want everything to be the same, you want the same socioeconomic class, you want the same architecture, you want the same type of, food choices. If you want everything homogenized, that's probably not the right place for you because we are very eclectic. tactic. So what I love about our community is you will find in any coffee shop a state legislator along with somebody who's a budgeting artist in their early 20s that hasn't made a dime yet. It's this wonderful juxtaposition, and that's throughout all the elements of it.
In the same neighborhood, you may also find a small little house that's under 700 square feet and a huge house that is over 5,000 square feet and worth several $1 million. Our downtown area is also not homogeneous. You're going to see old buildings with murals, as we talked about. You're going to see brand new buildings with beautiful new restaurants in them. You're going to see quaint little shops that are all decked out with everything that's perfect. And then you're going to see some funky shops with things that you probably never imagined before. And I dare you to go take a tour of downtown Olympia and let me know what you thought of some of our funky shops.
To say it out loud that what bonds us together is an eclectic mindset kind of sounds a little weird, but it just reflects the come as you are atmosphere that Olympia has.
The third type of person that really thrives here is that earthy and environmentally conscious type of person.
So if you've ever been on a hike and you thought to yourself, man, I would love to take my shoes off and just give a nice big snuggles to a tree, well, more than likely you're going to fit right in around here because that type of perspective of appreciation of nature runs deep throughout this community.
Yeah, exactly. Tree hugging is not frowned upon here. It is actually something that you will probably see somebody doing. In fact, we have participated in a Dancing to the Music of the Trees event that happened here in Squaxin Park. And you may have never heard of anything like that, but there is some equipment that you can hook up to a tree and the electromagnetic forces in that tree create music. And so there's music created and people are in the park dancing to that. It is a community that really appreciates the environment and really appreciates all of the wonderful green space that we have.
There are over 20 miles of trails just within the city limits. And if you go anywhere outside of the area, there are so many hikes that you go on throughout the Cascades, Olympic Peninsula, and literally up and down the Puget Sound area.
Yeah, so being in that earthy environment is really just a part of everyday life. We have Watershed Park right by us, so we can walk out our door and be tree hugging in just a few minutes and enjoying the trails and the water and everything that this beautiful green space has to offer. And on top of enjoying all of the green space that's around you, something else that's also important to people who are earth lovers is that they can get food that is farm to table and healthy and organic. And we have one of the best farmers markets in the area. It runs year round. Every time I'm there, I look at their vegetables and think, how do they do that? Because mine never look like that.
We have a lot of good qualities, hopefully, but one of the things we are both not good at is being gardeners. We try hard, some epic fails. I think my epic fail is more than hers, but nonetheless, they're there for sure. But down at the farmer's market, man, you get some people that know what they're doing, amazing produce, some artists and some local craftsmakers as well. So it's a lot of fun just to go down and just be a part of the community.
If gardening really is your thing, then there are opportunities for you to learn more about gardening through programs that happen throughout the city and through community gardens that you can be a part of if you don't want to do it on your own, which I think we would probably benefit from some of those. I think all of our gardening is experimental and we're excited when something turns out.
And then there's bike lanes as well. I love cycling and the city is continually improving upon that for its citizens. And I love that. So it's just getting safer and safer if you want to be a bike commuter throughout the area.
And beyond the parks and the farmers market and the bike lanes, the other thing that shows how important environmentalism is to Olympia is its regulations. Now, there are a lot of regulations that sometimes people can get frustrated with, but it is really the goal of our city to make sure that we do not hinder the environment. So, that leads us into the next point is that somebody who thrives here is the patient type.
You've ever thought to yourself, patience is the shortcut? Well, this might be the right place for you because patience is needed for any type of development that takes place in our community. The local city government very much highlights and values conservation in their developmental plans. So if you've got a good idea, it might take a couple years for it to get discussed and then rediscussed and then brought up with everybody's attention so that everybody gets to weigh in on it. I think some of those things are very charming about our community. So for example, Capitol Lake has been in review for decades to consider how they want to develop that into an estuary. So they've gotten public opinion, other public opinion, changed it, revised it, come back in. I actually believe now they have a game plan of how they're going to be moving forward. So just be aware, if you're a mover and a shaker, you're probably going to want to switch to decaf.
The good news is if you want to move to Olympia and you're not building anything and you're not developing anything, probably don't have to worry about it. But if you want to see things happen just a little bit faster, you can just move right next door into Lacey, because Lacey thinks about things very differently than Olympia, and they have the most development going on with both housing developments and businesses. And you're going to think, wow, there's a big difference between Olympia and Lacey. You will definitely notice the difference. But either way, you can just move here and wait for it all to happen if you're that type of person.
That's right. It is kind of neat when we have the three cities, Tumwater, Olympia, Lacey. They're all really interconnected. Matter of fact, sometimes it's very hard to distinguish where the dividing lines between one city is and the next. But our entire region comes together, offers something for everyone. We're highlighting very much specifically on Olympia, but those two sister cities have a little bit different of approach, and I'm sure you'd find something that fits your personality. The great thing about a slow cadence of how decisions are made and implemented, it allows you a little bit of extra spare time to volunteer at the civic center or the civic activities you want to be involved with.
The type of person that thrives here is somebody who likes to get involved with the community. Olympia is about 55,000 people. And as Joe mentioned, we've got Lacey and Tumwater connected to Olympia, so our region is actually bigger than that. But in the city of Olympia, 55,000 people really isn't that big. You're going to have the opportunity to have a say in what happens in the city. You're going to have an opportunity to volunteer. Matter of fact, volunteerism in Olympia is 40% higher than the rest of the state. So this is definitely a place where people get involved in their community. Some of the ways that people and you can get involved when you get to the community is obviously in the political region, because we are the state capital, and in city government, and with the parks, and with events that happen. In fact, the procession of the species that we talked about, there are a lot of volunteers that go into making that event happen. You can volunteer with your local schools, you can volunteer at the library. There are so many ways to get involved and volunteer. And besides just volunteering, just participating in those community events is such a big deal. You're gonna feel like you are part of the area. If you go down to Harbor Days, or you go to Procession of the Species, or you go on those art walks, or you watch the 4th of July fireworks with others in the area. All of those ways to get involved will help the community-oriented type know that Olympia is really the place for them.
Now, the final person that we recognize thrives in our area kind of piggybacks off of that. That is a politically tolerant type. Here's what I mean by that. I like to think in terms of the color purple. Because we're a state capital and there are people on both sides of the aisle lobbying for what they believe is the best for the people in our community, there is a lot of overlap for those people in each other's lives. We've noticed that on a personal level, where we're watching baseball and sporting events, and there are people on all sides, but very much hanging out together, being respectful, holding each other's values open-handedly. I know we live in a country right now that feels pretty divided, but one of the things we move towards and strive towards, and we've recognized, especially in our friend group, is a lot of mutual respect, and that's why we like to say the color purple.
Yeah, you're going to see on the same street political signs for one side or the other. You're going to see people at the state capitol showing what they believe, but when it comes down to it, we're neighbors.
Yep.
And we appreciate the people that are next to us, and we really do value being politically tolerant and helping each other see the other side and letting people live their lives.
It is truly one of the things that I appreciate. We don't always have to agree to be great neighbors. We can still have the biggest value, and that is kindness. And I think that that shows up in Olympia on a pretty regular basis. And I love it a lot and respect it a ton. So, do you think any one of those characteristics sounds like you? Or you're thinking to yourself, I'm going to avoid that like the plague? Well, that's okay too.
Now you know.
At least now you know, so that you can make an informed decision. And if you have more questions about the South Puget Sound region, including Olympia, as well as Tacoma, Gig Harbor, and other areas, feel free to reach out to us on the number below, or jump on our calendar and the link in the description below.
And if this video has been helpful for you, then keep watching, because in the next video, we're going to take you on a tour of all the areas in Olympia.